The moment you step onto the ship, everyone moves in the same direction. Half head straight to the buffet. The other half disappears into their cabins, dragging carry-ons behind them. They think embarkation day is for settling in, for finding their bearings, for starting the vacation slowly. That assumption costs them time, money, and access for the rest of the cruise. I spent 26 years working aboard cruise ships and guest services and at the purser's desk. I watched thousands of passengers board, and the same pattern repeated every sailing. The passengers who handled the first 2 hours strategically had a different cruise than the ones who did not. There are 12 specific actions you can take in those first 2 hours that will save you from standing in lines, missing reservations, and paying for problems that could have been prevented. Most passengers skip all 12. My name is Carol Brennan. I worked behind the desk on cruise ships for 26 years, starting in guest services on a Caribbean vessel in my 20s and finishing as a guest services manager on world-class ships. I retired at 62 and have taken more than 40 cruises since as a passenger. I processed those charges, fielded those complaints, and watched the same mistakes repeat every single sailing. The clock starts the moment you step on board, and the first thing you need to handle is the safety drill. Complete the drill the moment you are in your cabin, before you unpack, before you explore, before you do anything else. Every cruise line requires you to complete a safety drill before the ship leaves port. Most passengers wait. They assume they have hours, and they do, but those hours disappear faster than you think. The drill window closes, and suddenly you are being pulled out of dinner, or out of a show, or away from an activity you booked. I watched this happen every single sailing. A family would sit down for their first dinner, and the system would flag them. The host would apologize and send them to their muster station. The frustration on their faces was always the same. They thought they had time. Getting the mandatory drill done early prevents having to stop enjoyable activities later when the drill window opens. Once the drill is done, you can move through the rest of embarkation day without that requirement hanging over you. Most ships now let you watch the safety video on your cabin television. Use the television. The cabin TV provides a larger screen and more comfortable viewing position than a phone held in hand, which matters when you are absorbing safety procedures you may need to recall in an actual emergency. Once the drill is done, the next thing you need to do is meet your stateroom attendant. Most passengers meet their stateroom attendant by accident sometime on day 2 or 3. By then, the attendant has already made decisions about your cabin based on what they saw when they first entered. How many towels to leave, whether to configure the beds as twins or a queen, how much ice to bring. Meet your attendant within the first hour. Introduce yourself, tell them your name, and state any requests you have right then. The difference between a request made at 2 in the afternoon on embarkation day and a request made at 6 in the evening is the difference between handled and noted. At 2, your attendant has time, the cabin is still being set up, and adjustments are easy. At 6, they are in the middle of turn-down service for 3 decks, and your request joins a list. I processed these situations for 26 years, and the pattern never changed. The passengers who introduced themselves early and stated their needs clearly had cabins that felt custom arranged. The passengers who waited had cabins that felt standard. Your attendant can adjust more than most passengers realize. Bed configuration, pillow type, extra blankets, ice delivery schedule, towel quantity, the temperature the cabin is set to before you return each evening. Those are attendant decisions. Room location, cabin upgrades, and maintenance issues require a call to the guest services desk. Know the difference and ask for what your attendant can actually provide. Once you have met your attendant and stated your needs, the next thing to handle is your luggage. Empty your carry-on within 15 minutes of entering the cabin. Do not wait for your checked luggage to arrive. Do not leave the bag on the bed while you walk the ship. Unpack it now. Wrinkled clothes need time to hang. A carry-on left open on the bed for 3 hours creates a mess that takes 15 minutes to fix and by then you have missed the window to book spa times or claim a spot at the cooking class. Hang anything that wrinkles in the closet immediately. Put undergarments and swimwear in the top drawer. Toiletries go on the bathroom counter. Shoes go on the closet floor or under the bed. Medications, glasses, and anything you need at night go on the nightstand. Leave your checked luggage packed until it arrives. That suitcase holds clothes for the rest of the week. Your carry-on holds what you need today. Handle today first. Once your carry-on is unpacked and your cabin is organized, the next thing to handle is your dining room requests. Most passengers assume that dining arrangements can be handled anytime during the first few days. That delay costs them priority. Head to the dining room on embarkation day or open the app and submit your requests before the ship leaves port. Dietary restrictions, table size, seating time, whether you want a table for two or prefer to sit with other passengers. Make those requests now, while the dining staff still has flexibility. Requests made on day 1 get priority over requests made on day 3. On day 1, the dining room manager is building the seating chart. Your request at that stage is part of the plan. On day 3, the plan is already set. Your request becomes a modification, and modifications are harder to accommodate. I processed dining requests for 26 years, and the difference between early and late requests was obvious. Early requests were entered into the system cleanly and handled without issue. Late requests required calls to the kitchen, table reassignments, and conversations with other passengers about moving. Know what counts as a dietary restriction versus a preference. A gluten allergy is a restriction. The kitchen takes it seriously and adjusts your meals accordingly. A preference for grilled fish over fried fish is not a restriction. The menu already offers both. If you have a genuine restriction, state it clearly on day 1. If you have a preference, handle it when you sit down for dinner. Once your dining requests are in, the next thing to handle is booking your activities. Open the app the moment you are settled in your cabin and book your shows, your spa appointments, and your specialty dining reservations. Do not wait until tomorrow. Do not assume there will be spots available later. Book now, while the ship is still at the dock and the inventory is full. Spots fill within hours, not days. The cooking class that has 12 openings at 2 in the afternoon will have a wait list by 6. The wine tasting that looked half empty on the schedule will be fully booked before dinner. The show everyone wants to see will have standby only seating by the time you finish unpacking on day 2. I watched this happen every single sailing. Passengers would board, drop their bags, head to lunch, and assume they had plenty of time to plan their week. By the time they opened the app on day 2, they were choosing from what was left. Cooking classes disappear first because the class size is small. Wine tastings fill next because they are short and social. Specialty dining reservations for popular restaurants go quickly, especially for prime times like 7 or 8 in the evening. Shows with limited seating or celebrity guest performers sell out within hours of the app going live. If you are sailing on Virgin Voyages, turn off your VPN before you open the app. The VPN interferes with the app's ability to connect to the ship's systems and authenticate your device. Disable the VPN, open the app, book your activities, and then turn the VPN back on if you need it. Once your activities are booked, you have claimed your week. The rest of the cruise will flow around those reservations. The next thing to do is walk the ship, deck by deck, so you know where everything actually is. Take 1 hour on embarkation day and walk every public deck from top to bottom. Start at the highest deck the passengers can access and work your way down one level at a time. Do not skip decks. Do not assume you will find things later. Walk the entire ship today. You will miss entire venues if you do not know they exist. Every cruise ship has restaurants, bars, lounges, and outdoor spaces that never appear in the daily planner and are not marked on the app map. They are there, they are open, and most passengers never find them because they did not walk the ship on day 1. I sailed for 26 years and watched the same thing happen every cruise. Passengers would discover a quiet lounge on deck 12 on day 5 and say, I wish I had known about this on day 1. They would find a small specialty cafe that served fresh pastries every morning and realize they had been standing in line at the buffet for 4 days when this place had no line at all. The ship does not hide these places. It simply does not advertise them. The daily planner highlights the big venues because those are where the activities happen. The small venues, the quiet corners, the spaces that do not need promotion because they are always available, those are the ones you have to find yourself. Start at the top deck and work down. Walk the perimeter of each level. Open doors that are not locked. Step into lounges even if they look empty. Read the signs. Notice the furniture, the view, the crowd level. Pay attention to which spaces feel packed and which spaces feel forgotten. The quiet spots are where experienced cruisers spend their time. A small bar on deck 14 with 6 chairs and no crowd. An observation lounge at the front of the ship with floor-to-ceiling windows and almost no foot traffic. A covered deck on the starboard side that gets shade in the afternoon when the port side is baking. These spaces exist on every ship, and you will not find them by accident. Once you know where everything is, you can move through the cruise without constantly checking maps or asking crew members for directions. The ship is not a hotel where you stay in your room and venture out occasionally. It is the entire experience, and the experience is better when you know what you are walking into. Once you have walked the ship and mapped it in your mind, the next thing to handle is your first meal. Every cruise guide, every blog post, every piece of advice from experienced cruisers says the same thing. Head to the buffet for lunch on embarkation day. The buffet is overcrowded, the food quality suffers, and there are better options. I watched embarkation lunch at the buffet for 26 years. The line stretched from the serving stations back through the dining area and out into the hallway. Passengers stood with plates, scanning for empty tables, balancing trays while children darted between chairs. The food sat under heat lamps, replenished in waves, and by the time you reached the front of the line, the fresh items were gone. The buffet on embarkation day is not serving a normal lunch. It is serving 1,500 people in a 2-hour window, and the kitchen prioritizes volume over quality. The scrambled eggs are dry, the pasta is overcooked, the salad bar is picked over. Go to a specialty restaurant instead. Most ships have multiple dining venues that are open on embarkation day and far less crowded than the buffet. A sit-down restaurant with table service, a sandwich shop with freshly made paninis, a taco bar, a pizzeria with wood-fired ovens. These places are serving the same passengers, but the crowd spreads across 5 or 6 venues instead of packing into one. The food quality is higher because the kitchen is not trying to feed everyone at once. The wait time is shorter because fewer people think to look for alternatives. Room service is another option. Most cruise lines offer complimentary room service for lunch, and on embarkation day, the room service kitchen is not slammed yet. Order a sandwich, a salad, a burger, eat it on your balcony or in your cabin while you finish unpacking. You avoid the crowd entirely. The first meal matters more than most passengers realize. It is your introduction to the ship's food, and if that introduction is a lukewarm buffet plate you ate while standing because there were no open tables, it colors your perception of every meal that follows. Once you have eaten, the next thing to check is whether your cabin actually works the way it should. Within the first hour in your cabin, check the air conditioning, the safe, the television, and the shower. Open the safe and make sure it locks. Turn on the shower and confirm the water runs hot. Adjust the thermostat and listen for the air conditioning to respond. Turn on the television and flip through a few channels. A problem reported on day 1 gets fixed. A problem reported on day 3 gets, we will look into it. I processed these calls for 26 years, and the difference between early reports and late reports was stark. A passenger who called on embarkation day about a malfunctioning safe or a broken air conditioner got immediate attention. The engineer was dispatched within the hour, the problem was resolved before dinner, and if it could not be fixed, the passenger was moved to a new cabin that same afternoon. A passenger who called on day 3 about the same problem got an apology, a promise that someone would look into it, and a long explanation about how room swaps are difficult once the ship is at sea and the inventory is committed. The crew is not withholding service from late reporters. The ship is simply fuller, busier, and harder to adjust once the cruise is underway. On embarkation day, cabins are still being assigned, engineers are making rounds, and guest services has the flexibility to move passengers if a room has a serious issue. By day 3, that flexibility is gone. Know what counts as fixable versus what counts as a legitimate complaint. A thermostat that does not respond, a safe that will not lock, a shower with no hot water, or a television that will not turn on are all fixable issues. A cabin that feels smaller than you expected, a view that is partially obstructed by a lifeboat, or a mattress that is firmer than you prefer are not fixable. Those are features of the cabin you booked. Test everything within the first hour, and if something does not work, call immediately. Do not wait. Do not assume it will fix itself. Call guest services, report the issue, and let them handle it while the ship is still at the dock. Once your cabin systems are confirmed and working, the next thing to do is read the daily planner cover to cover. The daily planner arrives in your cabin on embarkation day, either slipped under your door or placed on your bed by your attendant. Most passengers glance at it, flip to the page for tomorrow, and set it aside. Read the entire first planner cover to cover before the ship leaves port. Not just tomorrow's schedule. Every page, every section, every note printed in small type at the bottom of the page. One-time events do not repeat. Port arrival times do not adjust to your morning routine. Formal nights require specific dress codes, and if you do not know which night is formal, you will show up to the dining room in shorts while everyone around you is wearing suits and cocktail dresses. I watch passengers miss half the cruise because they did not read the planner. They missed the champagne tower on embarkation night because they did not know it was happening. They missed the guest lecturer who only spoke once on day 2 because they thought they would catch him later. They missed the port talk that explained where to go and what to avoid because they assumed the ship would repeat the information. The ship does not repeat. The planner is not a suggestion. It is the schedule, and the schedule moves forward whether you are paying attention or not. Port arrival times tell you when the ship docks, when the last tender leaves, and when you need to be back on board. Miss that window, and you miss the ship. Last seating dinner times tell you when the dining room stops serving. Show schedules list every performance, every comedian, every musician, and which nights they appear. Some perform once, some perform twice. The planner tells you which is which. Passengers who read the planner on day 1 spend the rest of the cruise moving from one planned activity to the next without ever wondering what they missed. Passengers who skip the planner spend the week asking other passengers what they should have done yesterday. Once you know what is happening and when it is happening, the next thing to handle is making sure the crew knows what you need. If you have mobility concerns, medical needs, or specific preferences, state them on day 1. Do not wait until day 3 when you are struggling with a staircase or standing in line at a venue that has no seating. Do not assume the crew will notice. They cannot accommodate what you do not tell them. The crew wants to help, but they are not reading minds. A passenger who mentions on embarkation day that they have difficulty walking long distances gets a note placed in the system. Guest services alerts the relevant departments. The shore excursion desk flags tours that might be too strenuous. The dining room manager assigns a table near the entrance. The theater staff reserves aisle seating for shows. These adjustments happen quietly, without fuss, because the information was provided early. A passenger who waits until day 6 and then complains that the ship is too spread out receives an apology and very little else. By day 6, the seating charts are set, the tours are booked, and the ship is in the middle of the itinerary. There is no fixing what should have been stated on day 1. I processed these situations for 26 years, and the pattern was consistent. The passengers who spoke up early were taken care of. The passengers who waited and then complained were heard, acknowledged, and left with the same situation they started with because the time to adjust had already passed. Know how to phrase a request versus how to phrase a demand. A request sounds like this: I have difficulty with stairs and would appreciate a cabin closer to the elevator, or I need a table near the dining room entrance because I use a cane. A demand sounds like this: I require a cabin upgrade because the one I booked is unacceptable. The crew responds to requests. They document demands and do what they can within the ship's limitations, but demands are harder to fulfill because they are framed as complaints instead of needs. State your needs plainly, early, and without apology. The ship is designed to accommodate a wide range of passengers, and the crew has seen every situation you can imagine. They are not judging you. They are trying to make sure your cruise works for you, but they can only do that if you give them the information on day one. Once you have set your expectations with the crew and stated your needs clearly, you have handled everything that determines whether the rest of the cruise runs smoothly or whether you spend the week managing problems that could have been prevented. 12 actions, 2 hours. The difference between a cruise that runs smoothly and a cruise spent catching up is what you do before the ship leaves port. Les citizens complete the safety drill immediately, who meet their attendant within the first hour, who unpack their carry-on before exploring, who submit dining requests on embarkation day, who book their activities while spots are still available, who walk every deck and map the ship in their mind, who skip the buffet and choose a quieter alternative, who test their cabin systems and report problems early, who read the planner cover to cover, and who state their needs clearly to the crew on day one. Those passengers have a different cruise than the ones who wait. What do you do first when you board? Leave a comment. I want to know what works for your family. Next week, I am covering what experienced cruisers no longer do after their 5th cruise. It is the natural next step after today. Once you know how to board strategically, the next question is what habits you can drop entirely. Handle embarkation well, and the rest of the cruise takes care of itself. The people who built this country with their hands knew the value of preparation,